Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you for tuning in. Today I really want to talk about something that's really important, especially for the month of January. January is a month where there's reportedly a lot of suicide that happens among our population. So I feel like this is an important topic for this month, and I just want to share. I want to share my personal experience and how I got through it. Alright, so burnouts are, I find, not talked a lot. I find a lot of people go through them without really knowing it, really. And there's a lot of people that go, or your friends that go through them and that you don't realize. It's really hard to catch. It's kind of difficult to understand because some people just think it's like, oh, you're just having stress. Well, it's not. So I wanted to talk about my personal experience to give some perspective, because when looking at YouTube, there isn't much about burnouts. There isn't much about people saying about their burnouts and what that entails and what happened and what did they do about it. So here's my little spiel about how I went through it, maybe conquered it, dealt with it, whatever you want to call it. So about 4 months ago, I started to feel very tired, very exhausted. I had muscle weakness, I had headaches, I had a lot of anxiety, like really weird anxiety that just didn't make sense. So like I couldn't even go to the grocery store without like panicking, and that was really odd for me. I didn't know what was going on. When going to work, I couldn't do my job, I couldn't focus, I couldn't do anything really, and each time I would go home I would cry. Now keep in mind that I call myself a high performer, so I do a lot of things all at once because I feel like I can and I enjoy it. At the time I had 2 jobs, 2 call center jobs, 1 part-time, 1 full-time, and I also was a counselor, well, not a counselor, a coach, I would say, to freelancers. So I did that in the evening after my 2nd job. And I also ran a multimedia business where I would hire people to do certain gigs for me, or I would do a gig and they would do the editing or something like that. So I had that on weekends. So my full day will look like me biking to my full-time job, doing my 8-hour shift, biking to my 2nd job, doing a couple hours here and there, and then after doing some coaching for some people, some of my clients, for like an hour, then usually I would go and ed. So a full day for me would be about, I would say, 16 hours. And in between I would go biking everywhere. So it totaled about an hour a day of biking. So I had a really full life and I was really content. I didn't sleep much, sure, that's fine, I wish I slept more, but I had a full life and it was great, it was awesome, it was perfect. And then people go right away, well, that's why you got a burnout, because you worked too much, because you had too much overload. And you know what, for some people that might be true. There's like too much work overload and then they get stressed about that, and then that turns into a burnout. But that's not what happened for me. And a lot of people tell me, oh, Sandy, I was stressed too once. Like, that's fine. It's normal. Well, being stressed like that, like a normal stress, and having a burnout, it's different. And I want to separate that because it's absolutely not the same at all. At the time, I was dealing with all my workload and my business and my coaching program that I wanted to do. But a couple months before, just a lot of moving parts happened that caused me to have, I guess, an emotional breakdown and emotional stress. At the time, my uncle suddenly passed away with no notice, no nothing. He was not sick. He was pretty healthy, other than a few things, which left my family really stressed out because we have a family farm back home, and there's just a lot of moving parts. We have a garage, or he had a garage business. There's just a lot of things going on that just let things up in the air. And that scared my family. And that scared me because I live in Vancouver, BC, Canada, and they live in Quebec, Canada. So it's a little bit far away that I couldn't help whatsoever. As well, my stepmom and my dad broke up after 20 years of being together. For me, it just became like another change. Even though it's not my decision, it's my dad's. I loved my stepmom, and I love them being together. And it was very sad that they broke up for me. It was life changing, I guess. Another thing is changing jobs. That was another thing, and at the same time of all of this, me and my fiance broke up, and we had to separate our bank accounts, our assets, our life, and I had to move out and change my routine, which was just another thing. So imagine my full life of 16 hours a day of doing everything that I love, and exercising and eating well, and then having that stress on top of that emotional grief, that emotional loss, that sense of not knowing what to do. That got me stressed. Not my workload, not my jobs, for me. And I'm not, like I said, people have burnouts and they might get stressed over the workload and then therefore get a burnout. For me, it was not like that. It was the emotional stress involved around all this. The day that I started to feel kind of weird and not being able to work, I talked to my supervisor and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on with me, but I just feel like I can't do this. I don't know why. And she said, you know what, it's totally okay. I totally understand. Why don't you go on medical leave for 2 weeks and see what happens? And I never had a supervisor so understanding about and concerned about my own health. So I went to the doctor. I got diagnosed, I guess you could say, with a burnout. There's no such thing as being diagnosed with a burnout, but I gave that paper in. I went on my medical leave, and that was the most weirdest situation I ever felt, I guess. I didn't want to get out of bed. I'm not that kind of person that's gonna be like, I'm gonna stay in bed all day and do nothing because I'm lazy. No, I'm a performer. I do stuff all the time. So being in bed, wanting to stay in the dark, watch Netflix, was very odd for me. I ended up only eating dumplings, pre-made dumplings, because I couldn't even go to the grocery store. If I would step my foot out of my apartment, it almost became the end of the world. It was, my body would physically be in pain. My mental state would be out of whack. It's just weird. Like, I couldn't do anything, and I was so pissed off because, once again, I'm a person that just moves, does things, does projects, loves life. So after 2 weeks, I felt much better. I slept a lot during that time. I watched a lot of Netflix, but it gave me my body the time that I needed, I guess. But what I didn't realize is, after my burnout, I tried doing all of the things I was doing again at the same level, same speed, to get back into my gigs, to get back to my contracts, to work my 2 jobs and my coaching business and my multimedia business. I tried, and it didn't work out. I was always tired, and it's not a tired where it's like, oh, I didn't have that much sleep. It's like I had muscle aches in my body. My joints hurt. I felt like an older woman. I felt like I was in my 90s instead of my 20s. And you shouldn't feel that way when you're in your 20s. So slowly I backed down my coaching business because that was just the easiest to let go. My contracts were ending. Fine, no problem. Then became my business. My business started to take a lot of stress from me. It no longer became fun anymore, and it was slowly going down because I couldn't generate myself. I couldn't get out of bed as much as I could. It was starting to become a stress and I couldn't handle it. So slowly I let that go and ended my gigs, ended my contracts, and just never took on anymore because I realized that my body needs more attention. It needs more love and care. It just needs a little bit more affection than what I have been doing. And then it came to my second job. It started to become stress because I couldn't work out anymore because I had to go to my other job. I couldn't take the time I needed. I couldn't sleep in. I couldn't do anything. So I let that go as well. So since letting those go and just having my one full-time job, I decided to take on a bit more health stuff, working out a bit more, creating more meals for myself, and spending more time with friends, and being a little bit more creative. For example, creating a YouTube channel, and to just have fun and to fill my body with joy and what I love instead of always pushing more and more and more. So that is kind of my journey of what I've experienced about a burnout. And a burnout, sure, you could get over the big part for 2 weeks, but it lasts for a while. And it's been 4 months and I'm still in it and I'm still learning about it. My best advice is that if you think you're going through a burnout, slow down. If you're a high performer like me, it seems imaginable to do that, but slow down. Find ways to slow down. It doesn't have to be that you have to quit your jobs or anything like that, but find a way to slow down. Find a way that you could come home and just be grateful with what you have. Or, I don't know, just find something for yourself that has you rest and calm and have the body have the attention it needs at the time. It will not last forever, I promise. But you have to take that time or else it'll keep coming back in unexpected ways and just kind of be an obstacle, and you don't want that. If you have any questions or any other advice that you would like to have about burnouts, just leave a comment below. I'll make sure to answer them to the best I can. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and like my videos. And don't forget...